This is a video for maybe small business owners or sole traders like myself that want to be able to use some of the best tools out there, but not necessarily have to pay the top price for the pro versions of every large language model that is available to man, woman, or them at the moment. Because if you did, you'd probably be paying hundreds of dollars a month, especially if you aren't from the US, because most of these prices are based in USD. So Anthropic Console, which is really developed for developers and really has the difference in ability to be able to create API keys that you can then take and you can plug into your own apps, or you could take it and you could put it into things like Zapier or Make, which are automation tools or integrations out there. Anyway, Console is really useful if you just want to have a sort of a pay-as-you-go option and have a bit more control over some of the finer details with some of these models out there. For example, say we've created a prompt. We'll touch that in a second, but I just want to show you the interface here because it is very sort of computer-esque looking. Up here in this little icon here, which hopefully you can see, maybe I can highlight, you have the ability to change the model that you're using along with the temperature and max token output. That is very different to just using the standard free version of Claude, which won't give you any of those abilities and is sort of locked down to using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Now, there are some limitations with using this, but I think for the most part, this is what I have been using in conjunction with paying for my ChatGPT Pro version. So I find the ChatGPT Pro great. It's got the desktop console for my MacBook, and I definitely lean on that for some of the stuff, especially with the latest model, which is O1 Preview. That is absolutely amazing and been really useful for some use cases as a small business owner. But even just as an end user, sometimes not having to pay for the pro versions, but having all the pro features, that's definitely a win. So Anthropic Console allows you to have all those little like minute changes and details, which you just don't get with the free version, but even the paid version, you don't have the control over the temperature or control over the max sort of tokens that you can output. And that's super important if you're trying to deliver or trying to output or create longer text files, or even just code. If you're inputting code and outputting code, being able to control how much you can sort of output, that becomes super handy very fast. Anyway, let's just go back to the dashboard. So this is what you'll land on when you log in and finally sign up. You will need a credit card and you will need to put some credit on your account. To touch on that, the cost is, I say very low, but for the whole of September, you can see I did nearly, I did 1.6, nearly 1.7 tokens, 1.7 million, tokens in. I was ingesting a lot of code trying to build out an app, which actually I did a pretty good job at. And then the tokens out was 132,000. Now, all of that only cost me for the whole of September, $6.79. So considerably cheaper than the $20 US. And when you consider some of those other features that I was just talking about, specifically being able to control the model, the temperature, and then also the output token size, it is, to me, a no-brainer. Now, there's just some workarounds that we need to get to, but we'll touch on that in a second. So back to the dashboard. So you land on this page, you can write a prompt from scratch, or you can generate a prompt. Now, most of the time, if you're starting a new sort of conversation with the AI model, then generating a prompt is sort of useful. So yes, you can do the old classic, just type in, act like a marketing expert that is going to help me create online content, but we can also add that into this. So let's just do that now. So what I've done is say what I'd normally write, and then I'd sort of put that into the model and wait for it to generate. But here we're giving it sort of like a first prompt, and then it's going to refine that prompt and make it a lot better. So you can see in a business sense why this could be useful, because say if you are a developer and you're wanting to create some really solid prompts that make sure that you get good outputs every time, this is sort of where having this first step or like chain of thought to be really useful. So now it's generated this prompt that's just pretty long. I won't read into it too much, but I'll just click generate. And here we're using this prompt with some information here that it needs from us. So close this down for a second. So you can see here that it's saying there's a couple things in this red, which is what it's going to ask for. These are the variables that it's going to expect me to sort of answer before it runs the rest of the prompt. Now the system prompt up here you can add, which is sort of like the customized system prompt that you can do in ChatGPT. But we'll just leave that blank so then we're all on the same page. And we're going to go up here to run. And we're going to click run, and it's going to ask me, so business info, free range egg brand that sells online only. Marketing goal, sell more eggs by getting people to our website. I'm going to click run. And now it's going to run. And so I sort of put these into little brackets so you can sort of see what. This is the analysis part here. You can see between these two things. The content ideas are here. The strategies here. And now it's finished its prompt. So we can say either look at markdown or text. And the difference between these two things, like text will have sort of like a stylized finish to it. Whereas markdown, if you took this and put it into some other sort of note-taking apps, or you needed them to be in the code of markdown, then it can keep all like the best, not best practices, but the formatting. So if it's like bold, or if it's a H1, so like a heading 1 or a heading 2, you have that all sort of inputted with markdown. But anyway, add to conversation. And before I do that, you can just see down in the bottom right-hand side the amount of tokens output. So 560 output tokens. So add that to conversation. And now if we scroll down on the left, you'll see that's the assistant replying, and this is the user or UI with the prompt. So now we can continue this conversation. So like us as the user will then say, like, create a diagram that shows the steps needed to be taken. So if I enter that, then I go back over to run, hit run. It's going to take my input, which is that, and it's going to pump this out. Okay, so then look, this is one thing that is a little bit different between Claude and this, is that it doesn't have the ability to make the sort of mostly beautiful diagrams that you can get from Claude. Definitely Claude Pro. I'm not really sure about Claude Free anyway. But this is good enough for me. Okay, cool. And then you add that to conversation. That's 480 tokens, etc., etc., etc. So you're going to be like, well, what's the benefit of this versus free? Well, the benefit is that if I wanted to change this on the fly and go to Opus, which is a bigger model, go to this, change this to here. Like I can do that. I can do that right now. And I can say, let's just delete that. And let's just run this again. So now we're using a different model. And that you can't do for free. And you'll be like, well, you got to pay for it. You do have to pay for it, but it's cheaper. So much cheaper. And when I say cheaper, like you'll see probably like 20 cents. No, not even that. Okay, so this has created a graph that we can't see, but that's cool. But my point to that is that I can control this, which you can't do in the other ones. I can also here take an API, get an API, and then send that as well to one of those like automation systems that I was talking about before. You've still got the ability to scroll back in time and see your past a conversation, which is really handy. So if I go to say this here, this is just a massive amount of code. What, 13? Oh, that's not the biggest one. There's one that's 36 long. But as I scroll down, and I close this down, you can see just the amount of code that's chucked in here. And that's one really strong benefit about using Claude, is that its coding for websites and even apps in this situation is so far really, really good on the market. I think you'll probably find with the ChatGPT, if you're paying for the Pro, you'll get something similar from the 0.1 preview. But I often take the code from that and then I put it back into Claude, and then I just work it over a few times, and it seems to sort of find errors or see things that might have been missed. That's pretty much a breakdown of Anthropic's console. You might say, oh, how do you API keys? Well, you go into here, then you go and create a key. you create that secret key name. So let's just say test for YouTube. The workplace is always going to be default, and then you add. You copy this key, close that, and then you can go paste that into the option that you're needing that for. You can't do that with just standard Claude. You can't. So there's some benefits of that. That's more probably of a power user, but if you're a small business, like I was saying at the start, getting those API keys is a challenge. And, you know, if you're trying to be able to set up some automation through something like Zapier, definitely check this out. I really like this. So yeah, well, we're at 70 cents, so 10 cents for what we just did before. And again, you might say that's too much, but like, if you don't want to pay $20 for the for this Claude per month, I think it's a better way. Definitely a better way. I hope that helps. Any questions, please comment down below, or if you've got anything that you want to add, by all means, add it as well. And best of luck. See you next time. Bye.